guy who advocate like, the glorify LeBron thing. Like I like LeBron. I think he's obviously one of the greatest players to ever play the game, right? And I think no one's going to debate that. But I think it is a sense his effects though, right? Because of how good they've been chemistry wise.
Yeah. I think the Lakers are better this year than they were last year. Like uh, Dennis Schroeder, I think was a great get for them. Like he's absolutely perfect to run the offense when LeBron is playing off ball more. I think Montrezl Harrell was a great get. Like they needed that extra guy coming off the bench who could grab 10 or 12 boards and have a double double and have a couple blocks, affect the game defensively. Um, and it's just like AD and LeBron. It's like there, there's nobody you'd rather have in a deep playoff run. You saw what AD did last year, like hit a game-winning three. I don't think anybody thought he was going to do that. Was dominant in the finals. I think AD could easily win MVP this year. I think LeBron could easily win MVP this year. It's just like they often you feel like there's a little bit of a championship hangover, but I don't feel that at all this year with the Lakers, and I think that's a good sign going forward. Also, I think the Western Conference is a little weaker than it has been in the past, especially the last 2 years. I think there's some teams that are kind of pretenders. I think the Nuggets are kind of pretenders. I don't know why. I just get the feeling with them. I think the Clippers are not as good as they were last year. I think there's a lot of distrust in the locker room. So one of the reasons I say I think the Lakers are going back to back is because I think they have an easier path through the Western Conference. And it's just like there's regular season Lakers and then there's playoff Lakers. Like, and you have no idea the ceiling of the playoff Lakers. Like they could sweep everybody. I think it is within the realm of possibility that they could win 16 straight games and win the Larry O'Brien, and we're just done with it. Um, and I think that's like the biggest thing when people debate how good are the Lakers. Like I don't know how to answer that question. Like they have basically the two best players in the league. They can be as good as they want. If Dennis Schroeder starts scoring 20 points a game, like how are you gonna? What are you gonna do? You can't do anything. So yeah, I don't. I'm often pessimistic about the Celtics' chances of making the finals or even winning a championship. And a lot of that this year is because of how good I think the Lakers are.
I do agree with you. I think they're the best team on paper in the way they're kind of coasting and they look like the best team in the NBA at the moment. The one thing the way I wanted to wrap up here is you said some interesting things in that last segment that I actually want to bring up a little bit. The pretender argument I think is very interesting. The Nuggets, for example, I actually believed in a lot, and I think Jokic and Murray are playing very well this year. But I agree with you. They don't look like they had that it factor they did last year. Yeah, and the Clippers, I've always thought they were the most overrated team in the NBA. I've always thought that I'm not a Clippers, believer because I'm just not a believer what they. Kawhi's great. Kawhi's a good playoff performer, but Paul George, even though he's playing great right now, I have to see more from him and that kind of stuff. But I want to know why you think maybe there's a distrust in the locker room, even though because Paul George is playing better and why you think the Nuggets are such a pretender, like you said.
Yeah, I mean the Clippers stuff is weird, right? It's like Lou Williams, who has won a bajillion Six Man of the Year awards, plays like 15 minutes coming off the bench. And there are reports before the year that they wanted to get rid of him, wanted to trade him. Once Montrezl Harrell was gone, they didn't feel like they had that like whole second unit to come in. And all this stuff about like PG and Kawhi choosing when they're going to play, like having ridiculous requests on road trips, just generally driving a stake in the locker room. And then you lose Doc Rivers. And I think people underestimated like a little bit of the glue that he was in that locker room, the ability to keep them together. And then I think the bubble just probably like for a team that is having distrust issues, the bubble is like the worst possible place you could go where you can't get away from each other. All you're doing is playing and watching basketball. And I think you saw that a little bit. Like it didn't work. Like they stunk in game seven, like flat out stunk. One of the worst performances I've ever seen in any level of basketball. And to go to the Nuggets, like what I've seen from Jamal Murray this year makes me believe that the playoffs run was kind of like a flash in the pan almost. Like reached the absolute pinnacle of his game. And I don't know if he can get back there. Obviously, he's young and he can still develop, but he has not been as good as he was in the bubble this year. And whether that's like a regular season thing or just kind of like getting into the season, getting your feet wet, I don't. Jokic is obviously their one. I don't think Jamal Murray is a good enough two to get them to the Western Conference Finals again. And that's, I think a lot of people would disagree with that, but the supporting cast also, I think, like a little bit of a Bucks feel, like, oh, the Nuggets are the Nuggets again. Like the Browns is the Browns, the Nuggets are the Nuggets. Like this is just what they do. It doesn't feel like they're any different. It feels like they kind of depend on Jokic to play this interesting five where he's moving the ball around. It's like almost going to have a triple double every night. Also, like the Mavs, I don't really know what to make of them. I guess Kristaps is maybe coming back, but Luka's struggled in a couple games this year. So to me, it's just like, and maybe it's because I picked the Lakers that I'm purposely finding flaws in everybody else, but it just doesn't feel like the Western Conference is as strong as it has been in the past.
I completely understand that, and that makes a lot of sense. I think that's a great way to wrap up. Nick, thank you so much. And I know, again, for the people in the Amherst community, I know like the stuff you've been doing with Leeds is really cool and the athletic program. So continue doing your thing, and it's obviously a pleasure to have you on. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Shred. I appreciate it. It was good to get some of these takes off my back a little bit. So I appreciate the time.
If you like that clip from the Shred Takes podcast show, I encourage you to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And also, if you want to check out the full episode in its entirety, go to Apple Podcasts and Spotify to view the full episodes. If you like that clip from the Shred Takes podcast show, I encourage you to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And also, if you want to check out the full episode in its entirety, go to Apple Podcasts and Spotify to view the full episodes.